Today, we're going to break down how to look great naked in 2025, give you the 10 steps that you need to focus on in order to look, feel, and perform your best once the calendar year switches over. Now, last week, I talked to a 43-year-old man who worked in finance. He's 30 pounds overweight. He got his blood work done. He's got low testosterone. He wants to lose fat. And he wants to build muscle. We had this conversation. He said, hey, you know what? I want to wait until next year, though. Life is too crazy between work and kids. Can we revisit this conversation around January 10th? And here's what I want you to think about from this perspective, because we've probably all had this thought process before, right? Like, hey, you know what? The year's almost done. We might as well just cash it in. This is kind of like getting a scratch on your car and just saying, it. We're going to bump into some other cars because we're going to have to get this thing fixed anyway. Like, why don't we just beat the car up a little bit more? Right. And so here's what I told him. Like, hey, man, I totally understand. And you know what? If I had to guess, every year is probably like this. Every year you say, you know what? I'm going to get in a better shape when the new year starts. And you probably keep repeating the cycle. And the reality is, for this gentleman, and probably for a couple of people listening right now, is you have to either learn to be healthy when life is busy, or you're always going to use that as an excuse, even if you are legitimately busy. And what he said is, hey, you know what, Eric? I never really thought about it that way, and you're right. But I don't want to start something that I can't commit 100% to, because I'm either all in or I'm all out. You know? Well, I'll tell you what, guys, I'm wired the same way. I typically like to go full steam ahead, everything that I do, and then I'm like, you know what? I've got to completely back off because I went a little bit too intense. And so here's what we have to look in the mirror and ask ourselves. Is our current way of operating truly serving us? Are the things that I'm telling myself in terms of being all in or all out, or I'm too busy, is that actually serving you? Or is it simply reinforcing the reality that's leading you to want to make a change in the first place? Because in the case of this gentleman, his testosterone was shot, he had no energy, his clothes don't fit, he needs to lose weight if he really wants to take control of his health. And especially for men, we have a tendency to wait until things are so bad that we have either a really grim outlook in our business, in our relationship, with our health before we actually do something about it because we feel like we're invisible. So listen, we have to have a perspective when it comes to health that, your life isn't going to allow you to be all in like you're 23 years old without kids and the responsibilities that you probably have in your career, right? Because in my experience, being all in or all out typically leads to being all out over time as stress and as our life continues to change. So here's what I suggested over to this guy. Listen, we need to develop a plan that's going to improve your life, not one that's going to consume it. The reason that you're struggling with workouts is you pick a 5 times a week workout split that takes 60 to 90 minutes, and you can't do that with your current schedule. And when you can't, you really end up saying, it, why bother? Because you can't stick with that promise that you kept to yourself, right? And so the reality is we have to realign expectations with the reality of what you can do consistently. Because fitness is not about short-term sprints, we're all in and then all out. It's about how can we be consistent over time, even when life gets crazy, even when life throws us curveballs. And really, so for his workouts, we started with 3 times 40 minutes, a couple days a week. He went on short walks to break up his day and went for a longer one with his family in the evening, right? With his diet, it wasn't 5 or 6 small meals throughout the day and trying to eat chicken, rice, and broccoli and being boring as hell. No, it was built around first intermittent fasting, so he didn't have to think about eating when he's wired in with work all day, and then primarily protein and plants because we could control for calories and still feel satiated. This gave him the opportunity to still eat some of his favorite meals with his family, which kept that lifestyle balance that often eluded him and often led him to have 4 to 6 week sprints with fat loss and then gaining more weight back. When it came to work, we came up with simple improvements where he could order food from his office that did not send him backwards and did not have everybody else giving him weird looks because he was eating so dramatically different. Even if they did, right? We made room for business dinners and family meals. And really when he started going through the original week of the program, I think this conversation happened 3 or 4 weeks ago as of filming this, he was saying, you know what, Eric, like this is way too easy to work, until the weight started to fall off. His sleep improved. He's already mentioned he having more energy with his kids, and he's actually had a couple unsolicited compliments at the holiday parties and around Thanksgiving. So the biggest thing I want to highlight here is there are 3 important principles that we have to be able to focus on if you want to be able to look great naked without living in the gym. Number 1, success comes from the ruthless execution of the basics. A lot of people get bogged down by all the information that's out there. The reality is, most of the information that we see out there is just repackaged marketing based on basic things like creating a calorie deficit, creating progressive overload in the gym, and staying consistent over time. So we have to find out what the root principles are and focus on what's simple, not what's complicated and sexy, right? The more complicated your life is, the simpler the approach to fitness really needs to be. Second, fitness is a force multiplier. Yes, we all want to be able to look in the mirror and be really happy with what we see, but by extension of getting into better shape, every other area of your life will improve. When you have more confidence because your clothes fit better, you're going to present yourself better professionally. When you are more confident with your shirt off, guess what? That's probably going to improve your sex life. So a lot of times what happens is we get bogged down chasing some immediately visible goal in the mirror without thinking of how becoming healthier, more confident, more energetic is going to improve the other areas of our life. So when you want to give up, when you want to start thinking about, doing something differently, or you want to say, why bother? You might not just be saying, why bother in relation to what you see in the mirror or the number on the scale. That is an active decision to say, you know what? Performing my best physically, mentally, showing up as the best person I can be in my relationships, at work, maybe isn't that important to me. Think about that for a second, right? Because when you're healthy, when you're dialed in, you feel absolutely unbeatable. You're making promises to yourself and you're keeping them. That builds your self-concept, that builds self-confidence, right? And finally, we have to remember that fitness should improve our life, not consume it. We can't approach fitness the same way that we did when we were probably 15, 20, 25, whatever it is, right? The reality is we have to be able to have a practical, sustainable way to approach our health and approach our fitness. Otherwise, that consistency goes out the window. Like investing, fitness is something that compounds over time. But like investing, you might have ebbs and flows of what your income is. So sometimes maybe you invest a little bit more, sometimes you invest a little bit less. But when we continue making those deposits, fitness is something that's going to compound over time. It's going to help improve just about every area of our life. By extension, you're going to be able to have that practical, sustainable approach. Now, getting into the top rules to look great naked in 2025, here's what I found to work really well with our clients, specifically over the last year. So one way we've started to set up our diet is what we call 4-4-40. What does that mean? You're going to eat 4 times per day, roughly 4 hours apart per meal, and then about 40 grams of protein per meal. And here's the thought process behind it. Number 1, when we eat at consistent times, we give our body consistent signals. We have more balanced approach to regulating hunger. Versus if we randomly skip meals, that's when we typically see that hunger boomerang come back around. We overeat later during the day. So think about eating 7, 11, 3, and 7 as an example. You don't have to be precise with eating 4 hours apart. That's just a way to think about it. The second part, at least 40 grams of protein. Well, we want to aim for about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So if we have at least 40 grams per meal, that's going to give us a simple way to be able to hit the recommended protein that we need to really get there. So if you're 200 pounds, maybe you got to bump that up and it becomes 4-4-50. 4-4-40 is just very memorable and sticky for us. We want to hit that 1 gram per pound of body weight across the board. Number 2, eat plants with each meal. So our body does not get full on calories, it gets full on volume. So what do we want to do? We want to eat more foods that are higher in volume. So that would mean lean protein, that would mean vegetables, even fruit, right? When you focus on a diet that's primarily made up with plants and protein, the ability to control our calorie intake is made much, much better. So for example, if you're eating breakfast, it could be scrambled eggs with bell peppers or salsa, right? Lunch, you could have quite literally a turkey sandwich with carrots and an apple. If you're having a snack after your workout, it could be a banana with a protein shake. When you're having dinner, it could be steak and veggies, chicken and veggies and rice, whatever, right? Try to eat plants with each and every single meal. That's going to help you feel fuller and more satiated while also filling up on the vitamins and the micronutrients that you need to optimize overall health across the board. Number 3, optimize sleep. Aim for at least 7 hours per day. Now, this isn't always easy. I've got young kids. I've got multiple businesses. Sometimes sleep goes out the window, something we always want to improve regardless. The reality is sleep allows you to do everything better. It's going to help improve your hormone levels like testosterone, even insulin sensitivity. It's going to help give a longer life. If we look at all-cause mortality, if we look at cancer risk, if we look at quite literally every single disease and thing that kills us, getting adequate sleep is crucial in combating all of those. Whereas getting less than, say, 6 hours of sleep has been shown to increase death really from all causes. Heck, if we want better brain function, if we want more discipline to be able to keep the promises that we make to ourselves and to regulate mood more effectively, we have to sleep. So quite honestly, turn off Netflix, turn off all the shows, get to bed. It's going to allow you to step forward and do everything that much better for yourself. 4, make lifting weights the foundation of what you do. If you want to look great naked, if you want to have the optimal body composition and frankly, optimal health, lifting weights is the foundational thing, right? A lot of people get it confused, especially when they're trying to lose body fat, where they start to increase cardio, try to burn more calories versus lifting weights. No, it's not what we want to do. We want to get stronger. The point of lifting weights is to get stronger, not to try to burn as many calories as we can. So lift weights a minimum of 3 days per week. Focus on getting stronger, taking sets close to failure. That is going to be absolutely crucial to creating the stimulus that we want. Lifting weights is the entree. Cardiovascular exercise is your side dish. Number 5, get stronger. Most people overcomplicate their training. They try to change programs too soon, and they always want to shift exercises. The reality is most people are simply too weak and make too many changes with what they do with their workouts. Now, I get it. You want to change exercises. You want to make things a little bit more entertaining. But take a second and think about how strong are you? For example, for guys, I would say you should be able to deadlift, and you can look at a trap bar deadlift, a sumo deadlift, whatever variation, twice your body weight. Without a doubt, you should be capable of doing that, right? You should be able to squat 1.5 to 2 times your body weight. Bench press, you should be able to do 1.5 times your body weight. Overhead press, you should be able to do 1 times your body weight. Pull-ups, you should be able to do 12 pull-ups. These are all baseline. This is not elite levels of strength I'm talking about. And so if you're listening to this and like, oh shit, like I cannot do any of these things right here, this gives you a pretty good indication that with your training, even if you've been training for a long period of time, you're probably not super advanced. And that's okay. That's okay. I don't mean that to be rude. I don't mean that to be an ego shot. But the reality is most people are simply too weak and they overcomplicate their training, always shift their exercises, and never really develop the skill of being strong. When we do this, when we shut up and when we get strong with basic things, we can create more tension within each exercise. We can recruit more fast twitch muscle fibers. We can get better at controlling things like tempo and having better overall quality workouts that take less time. So if you're listening to these numbers, say, again, 2 times your body weight for a squat, for a deadlift, 1.5 times your body weight for a bench press, 1 times your body weight for an overhead press. Again, just examples, you can use different variations of these exercises. If that sounds astronomical, chances are you need to focus on some baseline things to get stronger in the first place. All right, gang, it's slightly congested today. Apologies for my nasally voice, but the show must go on. Can't let that stuff sideline us, right? It's like having that little, feel a little bit of soreness and skipping a workout. No, that's some weak shit. We don't do that here. All right, number 6, eat bigger meals, not snacking, right? Listen, adults eat big meals. You know who snacks? My 4-year-old. The reality is most people eat more often because they're bored, because they're stressed, because they want to be preoccupied with something else. The reality is, as adults, we should be eating larger meals throughout the day. If we're getting hunger between these meals, specifically when we're following the 4-4-40, there's a pretty good chance we're not getting enough protein, we're not getting enough fiber. If we want a simplified diet, getting enough protein and fiber are going to be 2 things that really set the bar and really simplify everything else that we are doing. So eat bigger meals with this 4-4-40 approach. We want to be getting 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, and we should be getting close to 30 grams of fiber per day. So if you're not tracking and you're not sure if you're getting that stuff, check it out. Let's see where you're at. Because if you dial those 2 things in, you're not going to be snacking. You're going to be you're going to be full. You are going to be full. And most times the things that we reach for snacks are going to be devoid of really crucial nutrients. They're going to be low protein. And frankly, they're just going to work against the goals that you do have. So snack less, eat bigger meals, focus on protein, focus on fiber. Number 7, train harder. You got to train close to failure and then go recover. I recall a recent workout. I was using a trap bar. I hadn't used a trap bar for a little bit in the deadlift. I'm training in the garage, and I was supposed to do a set of 8. I had, I think, 365 on the bar, and I got to 8, and I'm like, shit, that's hard. But you know what? Like, I just kept doing singles. So I did 9, then 10, then 11, then 12, then 13, right? So in this case specifically, I thought it was done at 8. I asked myself, is that really the truth? Because my form is dialed in. Even though it's hard, I'm not really close to failure. And this is a gut check. This is something I have to do, on a regular basis for me, even though I've been training for decades, right? And in this case, I had 5 reps in the tank when I thought it was done. So if I had 5 reps in the tank, even though it's hard, do you really think I'm creating this training stimulus that's needed to grow? Or probably not. See, the reality is when we are training, we should have an involuntary decrease in rep speed. Meaning, think of when you're doing a bench press. If your last rep looks the exact same speed, everything across the board as your first, you might not be training hard enough to actually create the response that you want. Now, your technique should not get sloppy. You should not be, shifting your hips. The bar path shouldn't really change, anything like that, but you should have an involuntary decrease in terms of your rep speed. So my challenge to you in your next workout, ask yourself, am I training close to failure? Am I training 1 to 2 reps within failure? And keep going. Use a spotter if you need to, but go until there's an actual involuntary decrease in how fast you're lifting that weight. If there's not, chances are you still have a little bit more gas in the tank. Tip number 8, walk more. People are always blown away by this, but walking is an absolute cheat code for fat loss. Beyond that, it's great for mental health and it can improve your digestion. So when it comes to walking, here are some of the huge benefits. When we go for a walk, every single step we take creates what we call dynamic stabilization through your trunk. Meaning, if you're somebody who suffers from back pain, right? All of these stabilizing muscles through your hip, through your spine are fired up on a very low intensity degree, meaning we can get better muscle activation. We can get blood flow directly to painful tissues. When we get up and go for more walks, especially in the sedentary society that we're in, we can see a lot of decreases in terms of back pain. But beyond that, when we're walking, our brain health typically improves. We get better blood flow to our brain. If we're consuming information, we have better memory retention. If we are not consuming information, our subconscious mind can actually do a little bit more work and help solve some problems instead of consciously always trying to solve things themselves. From a digestive component, we actually stimulate the gut very slightly to improve the digestive process, especially if you are backed up. In terms of overall health and in terms of fat loss, well, of course, we're burning calories when it comes to walking a little bit more, but specifically on top of that, we're doing so in a very low stress environment. We typically see decreases in cortisol when we're walking more. And when we're walking, where also the intensity is so low that we're burning calories without really increasing the need for recovery, right? So for example, if you only do high intensity interval training, if you only do sprint work for cardio, right? Well, you might burn a lot of calories in a short period of time, but you're also putting a lot more stress on your joints, tendons, ligaments, and muscles. And that can actually prevent you from recovering from the strength training workouts that are gonna have the biggest impact in terms of your physique. Not to say that HIIT or higher intensity stuff is pointless, I'm not saying that at all, but walking is often a better thing when it comes to fat loss and when it comes to overall recovery than adding more interval training and higher intensity cardiovascular exercise. Number 9, drink less alcohol. Let's be real. Yes, alcohol might be social lubricant, it might be the fabric of our society, but the healthiest amount is going to be 0. And this is coming from somebody who really enjoys a great martini, Manhattan, good red wine. Listen, I'm not too selective. Like, I enjoy a good drink. But the reality is, if we want to control our calorie intake, if we want to make better decisions, if we want to support healthier testosterone levels, if we want to have better health long term, if we want to decrease all forms of cancer, if we want to set a better example with the things that we do, then drinking less is going to be great. So one thing you can do here, there's a good app you can use called Sunnyside, where you can set like a daily and a weekly kind of drinking goal where it holds you accountable each and every single day. That's something that can work well. Otherwise, what you can do is just set a weekly alcoholic intake limit, right? So let's say you do 5 drinks in a week. Break that up however you want. You can do 5 drinks in an hour and have yourself a great time. You could have, a drink after dinner 5 nights during a week, whatever it is. But focus on proactively reducing your alcohol intake. Beyond getting rid of the empty calories, it's going to help improve every aspect of your physiology and improve longevity. Now, step number 10 is pick 1 or 2 of these things, not all of them at once. Where a lot of people fall apart when it comes to transforming their body is they try to change everything all at once. They do pretty well for 4 to 6 weeks, then they feel overwhelmed and they give up. I do not want that for you. The reality is habit formation is something that takes time. Heck, you can look at the research on this. It's pretty wild. I've read so many books on habits, but I've seen research anywhere from 21 days to 256 days to change a habit. Right? That's a huge range. The thing is, habits need to feel easy to do where we can almost do them on a subconscious level. So if you're the type of person who typically is all in or all out, you do really well at something for 30 days and then you backslide, the reason you're failing is because you're not changing the underlying habits and you're biting off more than you can chew. So often what we have to do is we have to pull back and go a little bit less in terms of the intensity, but by extension, being less intense, we can go longer. When we go longer and we continue to reinforce the new actions, the new lifestyle, the new habits that we want, well, that's how we form those new habits. All right. So looking great naked without living in the gym does not need to be complicated. you do not need to do everything all at once. You need to be able to build an approach where fitness is something that improves your life versus consumes it. And when you do that, fitness becomes a force multiplier to improve more than what you see in the mirror. It improves your health, your wealth, and your relationships. And so if you want that reality, if you want a time-tested, proven plan and proven strategy to be able to make this your reality in 2025 and beyond, all you need to do, head over to Instagram at Bach Performance. Send me a message with the word lean. And when we do that, I'm going to break down the next steps that we can take to be able to help you look, feel, and perform your best in 2025 and beyond. All right. So send me that DM. And if you add value directly from this podcast, please do me a favor. Drop me a 5-star review on your favorite platform and or tag me over on IG sharing this episode, because that is how we keep things free of the advertisements and continue delivering no BS advice to help you look great naked without living in the gym. All right, this is Eric Bach signing off. Hope you have a great holiday season, and we will talk to you soon.